dear friends, and welcome to another video. I am Emily and I am so glad that you are here today. It is about 9:30 in the morning on a Wednesday morning. It's April 12th, I think. And baby Tam's asleep on the bed. I don't know how much longer he's going to sleep, and I was going to try and nap with him, but I decided to go ahead and get up and wash my face and do my hair and get ready and whatnot. We've been having some pretty rough sleeping the last 2 or so weeks. First it was a growth spurt, and I think he's still getting through the bits of his growth spurt. But then again, like last night, it was just up and down and up and down and up and down. It's exhausting. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking about knitting and wanting to do knitting and always thinking about knitting. But I've had very little time to actually do much knitting, and I didn't really feel like filming an actual podcast because I've made some progress on things, but I didn't really want to film a whole long video and then edit the whole thing and then find all the links and get everything all set up. I just wasn't in the mood for it. I'm tired. But I did want to make a video and kind of chat about some things, so I thought, why not do a little knit and chat, and we can kind of talk about a couple things that I've been thinking about recently with regards to yarn and knitting and that sort of thing. And it'll be a fun way to kind of catch you guys up on what's been going on. Look at this beautiful mug that I got at the thrift store over the weekend. We just had Easter weekend, and it was lovely because a couple of my siblings were able to come up from college and hang out for the weekend, and we popped to a thrift store and they were having a 50% off like Good Friday sale, which I didn't realize until we got there. And this beautiful mug was 50 cents. It's made in Japan, and I loved it. I thought it was perfect for like a spring mug. And today I've got a cup of decaf English breakfast tea. It's just like the Twinings brand with a splash of almond milk, unsweet almond milk. And this was something that I discovered I really enjoyed while I was pregnant. I hadn't really had that much, like just plain black tea with some sugar or maple syrup and almond milk. And then while I was pregnant, I started drinking it, and I realized that I really, really enjoyed it, and I even liked it with just the almond milk in it and no maple syrup or honey or sweetener or whatever. So yeah, I so rarely get to drink tea these days. So I realized that baby was asleep, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have a cup of tea and we're gonna talk for a little bit, maybe only 15-20 minutes. Depends upon how long he stays asleep, but yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun. So, and I also really, really like this mug. I like it so much. There were like 4 of them, and I was like half tempted, but I definitely appreciate the kind of eclectic collection of mugs and cups and things that has become, I don't know, maybe it hasn't been more popular, but I feel like I've seen more of it in the last few years. And I actually quite like that. I like having a bunch of different cups and mugs, and it just makes it so much more fun. But yeah, so what has been going on? Not too much. It's a lot of the same old mothering, watching your baby, making food, repeat, do all the laundry. But it's good. It's exhausting. Like the last couple of weeks have been pretty tough, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I have moments. There have been a few moments where I'm just like, I'm so tired. The baby's crying. I just want to like but I also know very much, like even in those moments, like how grateful I am that this is my life, that this is what I get to do. It's just the best. The other thing too is that spring is definitely here. We've been having some of the most gloriously beautiful sunny highs in like the mid-70s days here, and it has been amazing. It has been so helpful. I'm so glad that it's getting bright again in the mornings when Micah goes off to work, and it's just, oh, I'm so grateful for it. I love springtime so much. I know that a lot of people talk about how at the beginning of the year, that's when they feel like refreshed and ready to go, and they want to like make all these resolutions and things. For me, it's springtime, like very much so. The sun starts coming out, it starts getting brighter again, and you can actually go outside and open all the windows, and that's when I start feeling like I'm coming alive with the flowers and the birds and everything. Yeah, so let's see what else is going on. Like I said, we had Easter. It was kind of a lot of the same old, because when you're sleep deprived and everything, it's just kind of one day at a time. But it was really nice because, like I said, my sister and my brother were here in town, and we got to hang out and talk, and there's just something about with your siblings where it's like as you all get older, you get past kind of that like childhood squabbling phase, and you're all adults, and it's really enjoyable to just be able to sit and have conversations and talk about things. Like it's just lovely. But yeah, so they were here, and we had like an Easter dinner with Micah's family, and yeah, it was just a pretty chill weekend. Let me think. We're supposed to have a vacation this upcoming weekend, but that might be put on hold. My sister came down. She got sick, and she was kind of sick the whole weekend she was here, and we're pretty sure that baby Tam's gonna get it, but the symptoms and stuff probably won't show up until the weekend, so we're kind of watching to wait and see if he's going to come down with it. And if he does, we'll probably have to skip our vacation, which is not the worst thing ever. Mike and I are definitely homebodies, and so we don't mind just staying at home for 3 or 4 days. But yeah, so there's that, and then in a few weeks, another reason I wanted to film this video was just in case I didn't get a podcast out before the end of April, which I'm hoping to, I'm planning to, but you know how it is if you have children. That in May I'm actually going to be out of town for about 3 weeks, which is going to be magical. I am so excited. I'm not going to go into too many details here because just in case the person that is involved in this 3 weeks planned vacation happens to be watching, it's a surprise. So just in case, we're not going to go into any more details. I'll tell you about it later. But that's coming up. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We have the local yarn store day is coming up at the end of April, which I'm planning to go to my local yarn store for that. And then we also have my local library has a used book sale twice a year, and it's usually in like April and October. And it's funny how it worked out, but the local yarn store day and the used book sale are all in the same weekend. So I already forewarned Micah. I was like, I'm going to both of these things. Like, be prepared to watch the baby for a couple of hours. So that's what I'm planning to do, and I'm very, very excited about it. The used book sale, they have tons and tons of books, all for like $1. And the nice thing is that I've been able to find the last 2 or 3 times that I've gone, I've been able to come back with a whole like bag full of books that I've been wanting to get. I've found Miss Reed books there. I've found Georgette Heyer books there. Yeah, it's just, it's so much fun, and they're all $1, and it just makes it so nice. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then for the local yarn store day, I'm planning to go back to my local yarn store and get some more of the Barocco vintage sock so that I can make Micah some more socks. So that'll be exciting. But anyway, let's talk about some knitting stuff. Oh, so good. So quickly, I am working away on my Joyous Baby cardigan, which is a pattern by, I believe the lady's name is Sandra, but like her username is, I don't know how to pronounce it, so I will have that link down below. But I have finished the first sleeve, and then I'm working on the second sleeve, so that's what I'm kind of working on right now. I've got several other projects on the go, but I don't know if it's this way for you, but I find that when I'm, especially if I'm tired or just kind of stressed with life's doings, that if I get to a point on a project where it's like the next step, so if you've been working on the yoke, it's the next step of like separating for the sleeves, or if you're done with the body and it's time to work on the sleeves, like it's where you have to like make decisions, or like it's not just like going around and around. It almost always like stalls the project for me, even if it's just for a couple of days. Sometimes it'll be a week or so, but it's just like it just kind of, I don't know, especially when like I said, when I'm tired or stressed, I just want something kind of mindless to just knit back and forth on, good to go. So I have my festival sweater that I've been working on, and I've just started the sleeve, and like that's really exciting. I'm super happy to have that going, but it has kind of slowed it down a little bit because yeah, it's not just going around and around. I have to actually pay attention, and there's decreased rounds, and so that one's slowed down a little bit. And then I've been debating back and forth on whether or not to frog the tegna that I've been working on, but for now I've decided to keep going, because I keep almost frogging it, and then I think about it and I'm like, okay, I might actually really like having the finished product to wear with my lovely skirt. If you watched my spring vlog from a few weeks ago, you'll see that I found this lovely tiered blue skirt at the thrift store, and it's just the best skirt ever. So I keep going back and forth on whether or not to, sorry, my hair truck out friend. With the recent like windstorms and stuff, and all the rain and whatnot, there's been a lot of in the neighborhood next to us, or the road over, there's been a lot of I don't know, like washing out in areas, and so they've been kind of like raking it over, putting dirt down, putting straw down, putting seed down, and trying to get grass to grow back. So anyway, but as I was saying, I've been kind of going back and forth on frogging the tegna, but for right now, I'm going to keep plugging away at it. I think the other part of it too is that it's such a different construction from anything that I've ever done before, because it's worked bottom up. So you work this lace panel, then you work this stockinette section, and then you separate for the sleeves, and then you have to work the back and the front separately, and then I think you join them at the shoulders and then do some short sleeves. So it's a very different construction from what I'm used to. So that's kind of always been a little bit weird, but yeah, so basically I got to the point where I separated for the sleeves, and I'm working on the back now. And it's just, I think if I can just power through and get it done, that I will really like having the product. But it's kind of a weird knit for me at the moment. I don't love it, I don't hate it. It's just kind of a mess. But the nice thing is that for right now, it's just kind of stockinette back and forth. So that's pretty easy. I have to do that for like 5 inches or something. I don't remember exactly. So it's fairly mindless, which is good. So I have that I can work on. But yeah, I feel like with a lot of my projects, I'm kind of at this weird like not mindless knitting stage. So I'm very tempted to cast on a summer knit, which I'm hoping to, hopefully, sometime probably in the next couple of weeks or this month. I'm really gonna try and do a summer knitting plans video, because I have a few different tops that I want to make, and I got some yarn. I'll just give you a sneak peek. So I was able to buy this pink yarn. I already have in my stash. It's some Hobby Lobby Cotton yarn. This yarn is some Knit Picks cotton that I was able to buy in a D-stash. So I have like 5 or 6 balls of that, and then of a darker color here. So I have that, and then recently Micah had to do a ton of overtime, and he was working crazy, and it was just a really stressful bit, like in February into March. And so it kind of started calming down a little bit at work, and he'd gotten a lot of extra overtime pay. And so he told me, he was like, I wouldn't be able to do any of this without you. You holding down the fort basically. So here's some money. I want you to just buy whatever you want with it. So I finally was able to buy some Drops Bell in several different colors. I have, like I said, I'm not going to go into it. I'm hoping to make a separate video, but I was able to buy a bunch of Drops Bell, and I'm very, very excited about my plans for this. So this is going to be the year that I try and make some summer projects, because I've thought about it and toyed about it back and forth, and I've wanted to make some summer tops and stuff, but I've just never gotten around to it. So I'm pretty sure that this year is going to be the year. But yeah, we'll talk about that more in another video. But I'm very excited. I just want to work with those so badly. Yeah. So, what else do I want to talk about? One of the things that I've kind of been thinking about recently is yarn stash and pattern stashes and fabric stashes, and how I don't love having just a huge stash. I went through and sorted through all of my yarn in my yarn chest thing that's down here, and just the number of projects that I could do was kind of overwhelming. So I've been toying back and forth with and thinking a lot about really trying to cut back on any fabric, yarn, or pattern purchases that I make for most of this year, just so that I can kind of make some of these other projects that I'm very excited about, and not just keep adding onto the project list. And it's not just with my crafting stuff, it's kind of like my life in general. I really want to start trying to be very intentional about being as content as I can with the things that I already have, and not just always feel the urge to go out and buy more and more and more. Except for books. Books are different because you can never have too many books. Yeah. Anyway. Especially with odds and ends of things around the house, like whether it's decor or I don't know, food items, where you just go to the store and you're like, oh, I'm just going to grab this thing, and then it sits in your pantry for 6 months. But specifically for me, my hobby stuff, yarn and fabric and patterns, I've got too much. I have too much, and I love all of the things that I have. Well, I guess maybe not too much. I have so much that it is overwhelming, and I want to have less. So, especially because I have less time, it was actually really funny because I was watching Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits, her latest podcast episode, and she mentioned in there how if you're not knitting, you're buying yarn. And I was just like, oh my goodness, that is so true. I have had so much less time to do any knitting, and especially sewing, and I feel like I've bought more craft supplies in the last 6 to 8 months since the baby was born than I have in a while. Because it's like I want to make so desperately, and it almost feels like buying things means that I'm making things. It's kind of weird, and I want to not do that. I don't think it's good. So my plan is to kind of do what I'm going to call my contentment challenge, and basically that's to challenge myself to not buy patterns, to not buy yarn, to not buy fabrics unless it's planned for beforehand. So, like I mentioned with my local yarn store day, I do want to go out and support them. And I don't have the right like sock yarn to make Micah more socks. So I really want to make him like six pairs of socks, but as many pairs of socks this year as I can, and I can't do that if I don't have the yarn for it. So I'm gonna go and buy like 3 skeins of sock yarn specifically for making Micah socks. So like that's a very specific like planned thing that I'm gonna do. And then with this Drops Bell yarn, I knew that I really wanted to make some summer things, and I didn't have any like cotton sorts of yarns that would be appropriate for making summer garments. So I knew that I wanted to get this, and I know that like as far as pattern goes, Rebecca of the Crayobea podcast is releasing the Tolsta tee, which is one of the patterns that I'm planning to make with some of this yarn, and that's coming out in May. So I know that I'm going to buy that pattern. But other than like those things that I've already kind of planned out, I don't want to buy things just because they go on sale. And it's really hard because there's people that keep making like hand-dyed yarn and stuff that I want. Holly of Mystery Mouse Knitting Yarn Co. makes it very difficult, let me tell you. But I really want to try over this summer to work through several of the different projects that some of them I've been planning to do for forever, like this thing. I bought this thing of yarn at Hobby Lobby, I think close to 2 years ago, and I haven't done anything with it, and I keep thinking about it and being like, oh, I need to make something with that. So things like that, where I've had yarn in my stash for different projects for a long time, and I want to make those things. And so it's kind of like with Pinterest, where you pin like 100 different projects that you would love to do, but you get so distracted with pinning more projects that you never actually stop and take the time to make the projects that you really wanted to make already. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is that I want to stop and put a pause on buying new things so that I can make all of the things that I've been wanting to make. And so yeah, I decided I'm going to call it my contentment challenge, of just really digging deep and being content with what I have, and just really, I don't know, just making a bunch of stuff out of the yarn that I have in my stash, particularly knitting, fabric as much as I can, do as much sewing as I can. But yeah, so that's something that I'm very excited about. It's like almost like I gave myself permission to say no to buying things, and I've been tempted a few times. Devin of Knitting with Pearly had a like second sale or whatever, where she was selling off a bunch of her skeins of yarn, and I was tempted to be like there on the dot and get some of it because I really want to get some Knitting with Pearly yarn. But I was like, no, you don't need that. You don't need it right now. You didn't plan for it. No. And there's been like some patterns that have been released, and I'm like, oh, but it's on sale. It's got its introductory discount. Like, I should buy it. And I'm like, no, you have so many patterns in your Ravelry library that you have not knit yet and that you've been wanting to knit. Like, no more patterns. So yeah, I've been working on like writing down in my notebook, like kind of jotting down different things that I know specifically, like I was talking about yarn for Micah's socks, or the pattern to make a summer tee, like those things where it's like I'm kind of planning out for most of the year. Honestly, probably until about November if I can, because I know in November with Black Friday that a lot of like really good sales happen, and so it's saving money to make purchases then. So I'm like planning out, like, okay, I want to buy something from Knitting McPurley. I definitely want to buy something from Mystery Mouse Yarn Co. I want to possibly get some Holsgarn yarn because I've been wanting to try that for like 3 years now or something. I probably want to make a purchase off of Knitpicks. So that's what I'm kind of thinking too, is like if I can save my money over the summer, I can work through a bunch of these projects, that then if I make some big purchases in November, I won't feel quite so overwhelmed because I won't feel like I've got yarn bursting out of the seams. And the other thing too is that we're planning to hopefully, you know, Lord willing, provided everything goes right and we're able to find a good spot, we're hoping to move this year and hopefully buy a house. And so the less yarn and stuff that I have to move, the easier it is. So it's all yarn and knitting related, but I'm just, I'm really excited about it. Like I said, it's like I gave myself permission to say no, and it's just lovely. It's so nice because then you can look at something and be like, I don't have to buy it. Because I can't tell you the number of times I purchased something that was just because it was on sale, and then after I got done buying, I was like, I probably shouldn't have bought that. And so then you feel kind of guilty about like this knitting pattern that you purchased. And I hate that. I want to be excited about it. And so it's something where it's like, that's the other thing. I know that for Laura of Penrose Knits, she's working on this Midlands cardigan and this Midlands like summer tee potentially and the Midlands sweater. And I love how that design looks so much. And so I know that I want to buy that pattern. So it's almost like I want to knit several things that I already have in my head so that when that pattern is released, I have like the time and the yarn and the whatnot free to purchase that pattern and like immediately make it. And yeah, I don't know. I keep thinking about like ladies of bygone days and how they weren't able to have like huge yarn stashes or fabric stashes. And I don't know, there's so many things about ye olden days that I really love and appreciate, and there seems to be a sort of simplicity about it, and I really want to try and embrace that more. I want to be more content. I want to have a more simple life. I don't want to feel overwhelmed or guilty because I have all of the stuff that I'm not using. I just want to be more intentional. And it's going to be lovely. It's so nice. It's not that I think that there's anything necessarily wrong with the big stash, but it's just, for me, I think that I need to get a few more things out of stash before I keep adding to it. And that will just help me feel better. So with that in mind, I've also been thinking about doing a Make 9 board. I have gone back and forth on whether or not I want to do that, but I keep watching Amy of the podcast just completely slipped my mind, and now I'm like, is her name even Amy? I don't know. Oh, what is it? I'll put it on the screen. I'll remember it later, but she runs the Make 9 Make Along for every year. She's been doing it for several years now, and it's bothering me so much. It's like on the tip of my brain, but anyway. And I've been going back and forth on whether or not I wanted to try and participate in that, or if I just wanted to, if I was like, that's too much pressure to put on myself. But there's so many things that I know I definitely want to do. Like, I definitely want to finish my festival sweater. I definitely want to make a Tulsa tee. I definitely want to make something with this yarn. I'm thinking a crocheted shawl. Spoiler. Like, there's different projects like that where I definitely want to make those. And so I'm thinking I'm probably going to go ahead and make a Make 9 board. And if I do, I'll make a video about it and we'll talk through all the projects. But yeah. So that's kind of what's been on my mind lately, and I don't mind saying no and kind of putting a pause on most purchases. It's kind of tempting and hard sometimes, but it's worth it. So I think we're gonna go ahead and end that here. So far, the baby has not woken up, thank goodness. But I kind of got stuck because at every few rows on the sleeve you have a decrease row, and I can never remember whether it's like a slip knit at the beginning and then a knit two together at the end, or if it's vice versa, knit two together at the beginning and slip knit at the end. So I have to look that up on the pattern. That is the one thing that I will say. If you are a pattern designer, it is so nice if you make it where there's multiple versions. Oh, here comes the truck again. if there's multiple versions of the PDF of your pattern, and one of them can be the beautifully decorated one with all of the pictures in it, and then one of them, make it a printer-friendly version that you, camera cut me off, that you can easily print out and it not use a ton of printer ink, because I will say, as much as I love this pattern so much, it is pretty annoying because it is not printer friendly whatsoever, and so I can't print it out. And there's pages and pages of information and for different sizes and like all of that, which is lovely. Like, it's an excellent pattern, but it does make it kind of annoying because I can't print it out. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little catch up and this little chit chat about yarn and knitting and all of that. I hope that you're all doing well, and that if it is springtime where you are, that you're enjoying this gorgeous weather, and if it's fall time because you're in the southern hemisphere, that you're enjoying that transitional weather. Yeah, I hope that you're doing well, and I just so appreciate you being here and supporting my channel and watching my videos, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.